Item. SCP-537. Object Class. Safe. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-537 is to be kept in a soundproof room. No additional containment measures are required, although SCP-537 has requested 1. Poster of the Muppet Movie. Granted. Weekly dusting and cleaning of its record. Granted. Daily 1 hour visits from Foundation personnel. Denied. Weekly 1 hour to converse with Foundation personnel sent to clean its record following cleaning. Under consideration. A vinyl record of the soundtrack from the Muppet Movie. Denied. It can play the entire soundtrack without need of the actual record. Description. Recovered from a pawn shop, to which it had reportedly been brought by a young man in February of 198. SCP-537 bears the appearance of a completely normal, albeit tattered, gramophone, with no visible deviations or abnormalities. The vinyl record, SCP-537-2, beneath its needle has only one circular groove that does not move inward, so that the needle never reaches the center of the turntable. The needle is abnormally difficult to lift, but can be lifted by hand with some effort. The needle will snap back down the moment it is released. SCP-537 is without a doubt intelligent, and demonstrates the ability to both see and hear. It is not yet known how. It communicates by playing songs. SCP-537 is able to play any song that can be found on an existing vinyl record and can do so at will. SCP-537 plays songs all the way through, and will never interrupt a song unless its needle is forced up, in which case it will resume the song from the point it left off at the next time it is able to play music. Forcing SCP-537 to interrupt a song is discouraged, as doing so seems to cause it to become irritated and respond petulantly to testing for up to several days. SCP-537 can raise and lower its needle on its own. It can answer yes or no questions quickly by raising and lowering the needle once for yes, and twice for number. It moves its needle in a similar fashion to express numbers, usually used to refer to other SCPs. Attempts to teach SCP-537 Morse code as a way of accelerating communications have failed, owing to SCP-537's inability to read or spell. It does not matter what record is on SCP-537's turntable. It can play whichever songs it pleases regardless. It does, however, prefer to have SCP-537-2, as it seems unable to reset its needle alone and will eventually be unable to continue playing. SCP-537-2, when played back on a normal turntable, is blank. SCP-537 appears to enjoy interacting with humans and thoroughly enjoys being interviewed. Its personality is often described as pompous and flamboyant, usually greeting people with "Welcome" from the musical Cabaret, yet distinctly childish. It is prone to tantrums when offended, which usually consist of it playing angry music at maximum volume non-stop until brought back to containment. It seems more trusting of younger employees, and treats older people with cautious disrespect.